All right, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Paul Schreiber. I lead development for 538, which is part of ABC News. At 538, we're best known for our politics coverage, but we also bring data and statistics to sports and science. And we've even written about the sneaker industry. Now, in 2014, our editorial team came to us and said, we're really interested in pursuing live coverage of events. We want to do live blogging. And we have a couple of requirements to make this happen. Number one is, since we're using WordPress, the live blogging system has to work with WordPress, and it has to work like WordPress. And the second thing is, this had to be ready in time for the midterm elections in November. We took a look to see, we took a look to see what options were available to us. And we've spotted 4. There were 2 WordPress plugins. There was a Liveblog that Automatic was maintaining. There was LivePress. And 2 external options which required you to iframe the live content in and required separate tools and separate accounts. So those 2 were out right away. We decided to go with LivePress. And that worked really well. Over the next 3 years, we published 61 different live blogs. We covered elections, we covered debates, and we covered live sporting events. We started with Game 7 of the 2014 World Series. We covered the 2014 midterms, the 2016 presidential election, where we had over 1 million people concurrently on the website with no problems. In 2017, however, we got some bad news. LivePress, the product, and LivePress, the company, were shutting down. That meant we had just a few months to find a replacement solution because live blogs weren't going to stop. This time, we considered 3 different options. We thought, would someone else take over LivePress? Could a different company maintain that product? That did not happen. We thought we could write our own live blog from scratch. That would have taken too much time. And we looked at the now new and improved Automatic live blog and said, this is open source. This is a great start, and it's something we can build off of in the time frame we have. So Automatic got contributions to Liveblog from their partners at BigByte. And we built stuff at 538, and our partners at 10up made big contributions to make Liveblog a lot better. So this is what Liveblog started off looking like. And this is what we have now today. We added a lot of features. So I'm going to show you a quick demo of what the original Liveblog looks like. So right now, when you're looking here, you see a WordPress post that looks like any other WordPress post. And there's not much indication that anything live is going on. If you go to the front end of WordPress, here you can see a special version of the editor where you're able to type in a post and publish it. The post will then appear below. You can find an existing post and delete it or make changes. But looking at this, this doesn't look like your standard WordPress editor. If your site is not using HTTPS, this is not a secure page, you don't have access to TinyMCE, the images you can upload go somewhere else. And you can't reuse images that you've put somewhere else in WordPress already. So here's what we did to improve Liveblog. First thing is that we added support for CoAuthors Plus. Like most publishers, most of the people who have bylines don't have WordPress accounts. So that was true for regular articles, and it was also true for Liveblog content. Second thing is that we needed to be able to migrate our existing live blogs from LivePress into Liveblog. And we took advantage of the WordPress CLI to write a migration script. Next thing is that Google has a special callout in search results for live events. and we wanted to make sure we supported the appropriate JSON plus LD metadata for this to happen. And you can see here, we're in the carousel in the first place, and we were very happy about that. Next, we wanted to add support for headlines. Just as we put headlines on regular stories, we often put headlines on many of our live updates. We added support for TinyMCE, so editors and writers would use the same editor that they do for everything else in WordPress. This includes our custom TinyMCE plugins. It includes the regular WordPress media library. And let's take a look at what this is like to use. All right. Here we go. So here is our live blog. When we scroll down, we have our standard TinyMCE editor. We can enter in headlines. We can start typing up text. We can format it just like we can any other piece of TinyMCE content. And we can add in art. We're also able to look at our list of authors, select the appropriate writer, and assign them to the post. We can see here, this is what it looks like on the front end. We can go ahead, we can find an existing post and edit it. And the updates will appear live. So this is what we have today. We're not done making Liveblog better. We have two big features we're working on over the summer. First is Slack integration. Our writers spend most of their time during a Liveblog supplying the content in Slack. Our editors right now have to copy and paste that into WordPress. It's a bit time consuming, and there's the possibility of making a transcription error. Automating that process makes this easier. However, unlike a lot of other Liveblog workflows, everything we post gets edited. Nothing a writer writes goes immediately live on the site. And currently, Liveblog doesn't support that because Liveblog uses comments under the hood instead of posts. So that leads to our second improvement, which is we are going to change the back end so it uses WordPress regular posts, which will give us the advantage of the standard workflow for filters and actions. It gets rid of the size limitation that comments have. This is not something most people don't run into. But when we have big, complicated data tables at 538, we hit the 65,000 character limit. That won't be a problem when we're using regular WordPress posts. The regular WordPress posts also let us easily mark something as a draft, which will let it appear in the back end for editors to edit and approve right when it comes from Slack. So all this work, as I said, is open source. It's happening in public. You can see it today in my GitHub repository. And we're happy to take pull requests and improvements from anyone else using Liveblog. Thank you very much. Hi.
Hi. I was wondering if you could comment a little bit about adding like this type of Liveblog capability into like a headless setup with WordPress. Is that like?
Sure. So the question is, can you add this type of Liveblog capability to a headless setup with WordPress? The answer is yes. The live data comes out in JSON, so you could write your own front end to consume that live data. The one thing that's interesting about the Liveblog is that the Liveblog front end is actually React, which is different than a lot of the rest of WordPress backend. So it's sort of already doing that without looking like it. This also has WebSockets support, which we haven't used because we're on VIP Go, which doesn't yet do WebSockets. So if you could also write a WebSocket client that could consume the data that way. Question from the back?
If you're not using WebSockets, then how are you getting async updates to the client? What are you using?
The question is, if we're not using WebSockets, how are we getting these updates to the client? And the answer is that it's polling. So it makes an AJAX request every however many seconds. I believe it's currently set to every 30 seconds. That's adjustable. Of course, the problem with that is it requires more demands on the server than just having WebSockets. Yeah. Oh, go ahead with your follow-up.
So what kind of load are you seeing, or what kind of load can you support at that point with that long polling?
Sure. So we had a really busy day in November covering the midterm elections. It was not as busy as the 2016, but there are definitely hundreds of thousands of readers. And we got some great support from the folks at VIP, where they were monitoring in real-time database queries. And that was the big thing there, because the responses are generally cached. Like the JSON blob is pretty static. So you can ask for it a lot, and it won't put too much demand on the server. And we ended up finding a couple of bugs in the Liveblog software where it was making unnecessary queries. And so this was early in the day before results had come in, and we were seeing 20,000 queries a second. After we fixed the 3 or 4 bugs, we were down to 100 queries a second, which is a huge decrease. And so that let us easily go into the evening where the load went up by 5 or 10 times and maintain the responsiveness we needed. So we had 2 more questions back there in the middle first.
That kind of answered my question. I guess I was interested in how you're handling that cache invalidation for that static JSON. Is that unpublished or invalidating and recalculating?
So the question is, how is the static JSON cache invalidated? That's not something we've had to change. I believe when there's a new comment is added, that it will do the invalidation there. The other thing is that actually, I'm going to correct that, or at least add to it. The other thing is that each of the polling requests contains a timestamp. And so the first request, and they're all rounded to the nearest 10 seconds or so, so that way if you ask and then you ask the following second, we don't have to do different queries for you, which speeds it up a bit. So the idea is every 10 seconds, it has to make a query to the database. It gets anything that's changed in that time period or so and caches that. So there may be some other invalidation that goes on for edits and deletes, but I'm not sure of the implementation details. OK, and then you on the right, and then you in the middle at last.
Oh, yeah. I guess, were there any plans, because it's like the standard WordPress old TinyMCE interface, were there any plans to create a mobile user-friendly experience, if you want to live blog from your phone?
So the question is, this uses TinyMCE. Are there any plans to make this more usable on the phone for people who want to live blog mobilely? So that's not something we do. So it's not something we've sort of spent time investing in. The Automatic folks had written up a proposal for a block editor, Gutenberg-based editor. And if someone wants to write that, that would be great. That might solve the problem. I don't know. Is Gutenberg more usable on the phone than the TinyMCE? Yeah, it sounds like that's a yes. So if or when that happens, that would probably be the way that problem gets solved. OK.
Can you just talk a little bit more about what is the operations? That's interesting about Liveblog. Literally, all of these people are posting content, and the operation you mentioned is editors are pasting things, pulling things out of Slack, and then putting them online. What does that look like when you have?
Sure. So the question is, what is the real-time editorial workflow look like? We have people in Slack putting comments in, and how does that happen? So depending on the type of event, you will see shorter or longer updates. With a sporting event like last night's Game 5 of the NBA Finals, most of the comments were reacting to things that were happening in real time. If we cover a debate or an election, we'll have more medium form content that could be a couple hundred words, could have graphics in them, and that kind of stuff will happen in a Google Doc. so it can be easily edited and then pasted in there. So we have for each event, we create a Slack channel, and folks will have comments, and they'll indicate if something is intended for publication or if it's just a comment to the room. And they'll indicate if it's in a Google Doc, they will mention there, and if it's just plain text from Slack, they'll copy. The editor or editors who are managing that shift of the live blog will know to copy and paste it into WordPress. Does that make sense? OK, great.
We got time for one more.
We have one more question. Anyone else with a question? Is that, no, that's not a question. That's scratching. All right.
Thank you.
All right, I think we're done. Thank you.